steps from the Capitol in Cheyenne with reporters in your hometown. These are the top stories from the Cowboy State Daily News Center.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Monday, January 26th. I'm Mac Watson. A Rock Springs high school teacher accidentally projected a personal nude photo during a special ed class, shocking some students and upsetting parents. Cowboy State Daily's Zach Sontag reports that parents are criticizing what they say was a delayed response by the school.
No one has any animosity toward the teacher. They understand mistakes happen. People have personal lives. They're just upset that it wasn't handled a little bit differently. And as for technology in the classroom, Wyoming does have a digital learning plan, but it does not state in this plan any specific mandate about the rules regarding the use of personal devices in the classroom. And a lot of education advocates say we need to champion clear protocols for separating personal devices and content in the classroom, and Wyoming does not have a statewide policy on that yet, but it's something that people are now talking about.
The incident began as a discussion on what kids did for winter break. When it was the teacher's turn to share, she connected her cell phone to a laptop projector, and that's when the nude image was displayed on the screen. The mother of a 22-year-old Cheyenne man who shot himself while handcuffed in the back of a police car is asking how could it have happened. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that mom, Danny Hall, has many unanswered questions.
When I interviewed Danny Hall, she was this combination of devastation and curiosity. And she was like, how do they miss a handgun but find a pocket knife? How long before this happened? Did he say anything right before he did it? And so even though she was absolutely devastated, she was just teeming with questions about what happened. As part of my inquiry to Cheyenne Police Department, I asked if they were willing to confirm Danny Hall's account. And I also asked if anyone was on leave or in counseling because of this situation. They declined to comment in addition to their statement, saying the investigation's ongoing.
22-year-old Aiden Hall was being detained on suspicion of DUI when he allegedly shot himself in the back of a squad car. There's a dark underbelly in Yellowstone, and two retired rangers are telling all. Cowboy State Daily's Jen Coker reports that Tara Ross and Nancy Martins are telling stories like the one called The Yellowstone River and the Hippie Cannibal Story, about a social worker from Montana who had the misfortune of picking up a couple hitchhikers high on LSD.
These stories never get out of the behind the scenes. For example, when two rangers were responding to a bear mauling, they ran into a bison and they thought they gave it a wide enough berth. So they're trying to circumvent this bison on the trail, and the bison then sees them, run right toward them. And one of the rangers sprays it with bear spray, and it diverts within 5 to 10 feet of knocking them over and killing them. Sadly, they were too late. They would have been too late anyway because they were responding to screams at that point. But that's just an example of what these rangers are dealing with. And these women shared the stories not just from Yellowstone. They're sharing the stories from all over national parks.
Ross and Martins, co-host of the Crime Off the Grid podcast, was started back in 2023 when Ross retired. The giant flags over Camping World in Cheyenne are handmade and cost $130,000 each. Cowboy State Daily's Kate Meadows reports that the basketball court-sized flags are handcrafted with a specific intention.
This was a decision made back in 2014. The first 4 flags were put out at 4 camping worlds across the country. Cheyenne's didn't come until 2021. They are just a support for veterans. Camping World is a huge supporter of veterans, and a lot of their customers are veterans. So every flag is handmade. Every flag costs $130,000. The general manager at the Cheyenne Camping World told me that one flag lasts up to about 2 months in good weather.
The massive flag at Cheyenne's Camping World location on the north side of Interstate 80 is specifically engineered to withstand up to 100-mile-an-hour winds. I'll be back with more news from Cowboy State Daily right after this.
My name's Brady Thornock. I manage my family's ranch here in Uena County. Ranching teaches you to think long-term, and it teaches you that Wyoming stays strong when there's real work here. That's why I'm building a data center on this ranch with a Wyoming company called Prometheus Hyperscale. This project will create thousands of Wyoming jobs, and it will use Wyoming's natural gas resources. We need to build Wyoming. I'm doing this for the future of Wyoming.
Build Wyoming with Prometheus Hyperscale. Go to buildwyoming.com.
Cowboy State Daily News continues now. From Afghanistan to Africa to Wyoming, Kim Green is a leading trainer of world-class protection dogs that she sells for $175,000 each. Cowboy State Daily's David Madison reports that Kim sells about 20 dogs a year, and her security business made nearly $3 million in 2024.
Kim Green, she started just down the road from Jackson on the highway there in an old Polaris dealership, and she's built up this reputation and a product, this incredible protection dog that can sell for as much as $175,000. Now, what do you get for that? Well, she says that in the time that she's been in business, there's really only been one documented incident where the dog had to use its biting talents. Only once during an attempted carjacking in Nairobi, Kenya, is there this documented case of the dog actually biting. Mostly it's a preventative measure. People see that dog and probably know better than to attempt anything with the owner. They're also just amazing companion animals, according to Green and her clients.
Green, who is the co-founder of Svalin, got her start in Kenya before moving operations to Teton County, Wyoming, and now is based outside of Livingston, Montana. Cheyenne-based Big Boy 4014 is the world's largest operating steam locomotive and will make its first ever coast-to-coast tour this year to honor America's 250th birthday. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that according to Union Pacific officials, the tour would be historic.
Big Boy was rolled off the line in 1941 at the plant in Schenectady, New York, and has never been back to the East Coast since. He came to Wyoming. They stationed it at Green River. Eventually it went to a museum in California. Then it was brought back to Cheyenne to restore, and it's toured all over the West, but it's never been back to the East Coast since it rolled off the line in 1941. So this would be a first for Big Boy to make this tour. Lots of people are really excited about it.
Officials from Union Pacific tell Cowboy State Daily that Big Boy's tour has more details that need to be ironed out, but could begin near the end of March. A Cheyenne state legislator unveiled a bill Thursday that seeks to sell between 30,000 and 200,000 acres of non-trust state lands in 10-acre parcels to individual families at $1 an acre. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that State Rep. Jacob Wasserberger says it will help ease Wyoming's housing shortage.
The Wyoming Homestead Opportunity Program unveiled Thursday. What it wants to do is to sell off several thousand acres of Wyoming state non-trust lands at $1 an acre in clusters, like these 3,000-acre neighborhoods. And then each family or buyer gets like a 10-acre lot. And it has, a lot of stipulations, like you have to promise to live on the land within 20 years. You have to do this and this, and if not, your land reverts back to the state. The preamble to this bill says it's to solve our housing shortage. A public lands expert that I spoke with, David Wilms, said, yeah, but I'm not seeing any neighborhoods or clusters, acreage that big of state non-trust land near any of the areas where we have housing shortages.
Now, state parks, school parcels, historical sites, recreational grounds, wilderness areas, these types of lands will not be eligible for sale under the Act if the bill becomes law. In 1891, a well-known Casper doctor and drunk was thrown into a local jail after a fight with another doctor. Cowboy State Daily's Dale Killingbeck reports that the doctor then yelled that the jail was on fire, but nobody paid attention.
This happened in October 1891. They rushed to the jail. It's ablaze. This neighbor tried to break the lock, broke the lock, but he couldn't open the door. So then he goes to get the marshal. The marshal gives him the key, can't open the lock. They go to cut a hole in the side of the jail, and by the time they do that, they find that the doctor is just a pile of ashes, and they pull him out with a rake.
Now, the hometown Natrona County Tribune on October 14th got straight to the point when it printed, quote, burned to death, Dr. Joseph Benson meets a death of agony, unquote. That same story also reported that he was, quote, nothing but a charred mass of humanity, unquote. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting that daily newsletter button at cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel or listen to us on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for listening. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.